I stepped into Viera Logic's HQ that morning like I had every morning for the past 27 years. Heels steady, posture straight, dressed in the kind of understated authority that didn't need a logo to speak for it. But today, the air hit different. Security didn't meet my gaze. The usual good morning, Ms. Vieira, came slower, awkward, like they knew something I didn't, or worse, something I should have. I moved past them, heels clicking on the marble floor, toward the executive boardroom. Inside Braden Locke, my husband, freshly minted CEO, the boy I had once taught how to fold a quarterly earnings sheet, sat with HR and the legal team. His tie was sharp, his eyes sharper. He didn't stand, didn't even nod. He just said flat, "Your position is no longer required." The silence was so tight, I could hear someone's pen cap snap. I looked at him, not with fury, not with tears, but with the calm of someone who's been betrayed before and learned not to flinch. I slid my ID across the table. Then, with my voice low but clear enough to echo, "I'll see you all at the shareholders' meeting." Outside the boardroom, the glass felt colder against my fingers as I steadied myself. The elevator dinged. That's when I saw her. Talia Ruse. Glossy hair, tailored silk. She didn't say a word as she passed me. She didn't have to. She walked straight into what used to be my office. Through the open door, I saw her sit in my chair, the same one I picked out when we closed our Series B. The smirk on her lips wasn't professional. It was possession. A younger assistant walked by, chuckled under his breath. Maybe at the awkwardness. Maybe at me. Either way, I caught it. And I let it go. Because the moment demanded restraint, not reaction. Memory's a cruel thing. A flash of Braden at 17. Nervous, awkward. Sitting in that very chair, shaking from his first internship nerves. I handed him a black coffee, no sugar, no cream. Just like I drank it. I raised him to lead, I thought. He chose to conquer. I pulled out my phone, logged into my dashboard. Nothing. Access denied. My name, my digital signature, my scheduling authority, all stripped. I tapped a message to Cambria Fox, our internal counsel, once my mentee. Is our vault still intact? 3 dots. Then, checking. I stared at the screen. Then the thought hit hard. They're not just firing me. They're scrubbing me out of history. A dull ache pressed behind my eyes. But I didn't cry. There wasn't time for sentimentality. Flashback, brief and surgical. The recession. The 6 shell companies I'd quietly formed. The chessboard I laid out over years. Each move designed to obscure the truth. I owned 82%. But now it felt exposed. Like a wire hanging loose in the rain. I stepped out of the elevator into the lobby cafe. Sat at my usual corner booth. No one approached. Black. No sugar, I told the barista. She didn't ask my name. Maybe she didn't recognize me anymore. I sipped slow. The taste hadn't changed. The memories had. On the wall, a photo. From the launch day. Me, Braden's father, and Braden himself, barely out of school. Clinging to my side like a shadow. Behind me, a junior staffer laughed. I didn't turn around. I stirred the coffee once, counterclockwise. Let the spoon clink just once. Then I looked out the window. Not for comfort, but for calculation. You ever watch someone walk away with your life's work, like they built it themselves? Ever had the people you trusted pretend they never knew you? If you were me, would you walk away? Or walk back and smarter? From my purse, I pulled a small flash drive. Nothing fancy. Just matte black, like a bullet dressed for dinner. I whispered, Section 12B. They forgot I wrote it. And then I smiled. Not from joy. From precision. The engine purred softly as I steered through the outskirts of Austin. Headlights slicing through the dusk. My fingers wrapped the wheel with measured control. But my mind was already somewhere else. Inside a war room that hadn't been built yet. They thought it was over. That their little theater piece this morning was the final act. What they didn't realize was I never played in their game. I built mine. The house was silent when I walked in. I didn't bother turning on the lights. The quiet comforted me. I slipped off my shoes, pulled my hair back, and entered the study. My private workstation hadn't been used in months, but it had been updated, air-gapped, encrypted, firewalled beyond government grade. They logged me out, so I logged in elsewhere. I unzipped a hidden drive, loaded the backup shell access folders, checked on the 6 holding companies I'd built during Viera Logix's lean years. Each one still standing, still intact, still mine. In 2016, Braden thought I was saving the company from bankruptcy. In truth, I was saving myself from him. I opened the original shareholder agreement. Page 42, Section 12B. My clause. My line. My power switch. The cursor blinked like a heartbeat. Have you ever been counted out while you were still holding all the chips? The answer wasn't in the files. It was in my smile. At precisely 10 p.m., my phone rang. A single vibration on the desk. I picked up without checking the caller ID. Noelle, came the voice. Gravelly, deliberate. It's Carrick. We need to talk. Section 12B is live. I exhaled once. My voice came low. What triggered it? They moved unauthorized shares, he said. It qualifies as executive betrayal. You have 48 hours to act, or you lose the window. He paused, then added softly, just like your father warned. My eyes flicked to the framed photograph on the bookshelf. Me, age 23, flanked by my father and Carrick. All of us freshly inked on Viera Logix's founding agreement. I had promised that night I'd never be sidelined. Time to execute, I said. I called Cambria Fox. No preamble. Lock down all 6 entities. Start prepping proxy vote kits. Deadline is 47 hours, 53 minutes. On it, she answered. She didn't ask questions. Smart girl. I sat back. For a brief second, the thrill of strategy ran up my spine. Power isn't loud. It waits. Then it strikes. At midnight, there was a knock. Not the kind that waits. The kind that announces. I opened the door. There she stood. My tierra. My mother. Hair shorter. Posture more hunched than I remembered. But her eyes? Still cold steel. She carried a suitcase. And a manila folder. I'm back, she said. You left, I replied. She walked past me like it was still her home. Set the suitcase down. Placed the folder on the kitchen island. I brought this, she said, tapping the folder. It's your original signed copy. The real one. The one they lost. My hands didn't move. My voice didn't lift. Why now? May looked up at me. For the first time, something behind her eyes cracked. Just slightly. They offered me the same deal you refused. The words sat there between us. Heavy. Ugly. The last time I saw her, I was 19. She'd chosen silence over my side. And now she was back with my proof. What would you do if the person who abandoned you returned, holding the one thing that could save you? I didn't hug her. I didn't thank her. I took the folder. Spare rooms upstairs, I said. At 2:13 a.m., I was back in front of the screen. Cambria and Loren Rousseau, the quiet tech from our old warehouse division, joined the secure call. We logged into the deep archive, the one only I could access. A string of passwords, facial recognition, double key encryption. Then it loaded. Line by line, account by account, we followed the money. Project Roosevelt, Cambria whispered. Million. Redirected over 18 months. Into a shell registered to one Talia ruse. The betrayal wasn't just personal. It was systemic. I printed the statements. Quietly. Deliberately. Each page that slid from the printer was another thread cut from their web. They took the house, I murmured. I'll take the company. Have you ever watched someone profit off your loyalty while you slept beside them? At 3:03 a.m., the screen blinked. Execute proxy vote. Countdown initiated, 48 hours. No sound. No fanfare. Just the beginning of the end. The elevator dinged softly as it arrived at the 34th floor of Logic's tower. I stepped out, heels clicking with purpose across polished marble. The boardroom loomed ahead, framed in glass like a courtroom waiting for its trial. No banners, no welcomes, just consequences. Cambria Fox looked up from her chair near the end of the table. A subtle nod. Judge Carrick stood by the window, arms crossed. The old lion of Texas law, still razor-sharp. He caught my eye and gave the barest lift of his chin. We were ready. At the head of the table stood Harlan Reeve, chair of the board. He checked his watch, cleared his throat once. Behind me, the door opened again. Braden Locke entered. His suit fit perfectly. His face, not so much. Composed, yes. But behind his eyes, tension moved like heat on asphalt. Talia Ruse followed in like perfume and power, her heels too loud, her confidence too new. I didn't speak, just took my seat. Braden opened his tablet and tapped once. Before we begin, he said, I've drafted a mutual executive transition plan for consideration. I let the silence breathe. Then I stood, walked to the podium, and inserted the USB. An assistant looked to Harlan. Harlan nodded. The screen behind us flickered to life. The video played. Braden's voice, calm, cold, echoed in the room. Noelle doesn't need to approve this. She's distracted. I'll take care of it. The footage had timestamp, metadata, and company seal. It wasn't yesterday. It was last spring, a meeting I never signed off on, an override I never consented to. Gasps, rustling chairs. Talia stiffened in her seat. Then the real moment. May Vieira walked in. No words, just her hands placing the original signed shareholder agreement, inked, notarized, time-stamped on the boardroom table. She turned, walked out. Judge Carrick stepped forward, opened the folder, and read, Pursuant to Section 12B and in line with provisions ratified in 2016, your executive authority is hereby suspended pending a majority proxy review. Braden rose. You can't just. Harlan didn't raise his voice. Motion. Rescind executive appointment of Braden Locke. All in favor. 10 hands lifted. Unanimous. The room stilled. Braden's jaw tightened. His lips trembled. What have I done? He whispered. Harlan didn't look at him. What you always did. I stood slowly. Didn't walk to the head of the table. Didn't snatch a title. I walked to the floor-to-ceiling window. Austin shimmered below, unbothered. I held 82% all this time, I said. You just never asked who really signed the checks. Braden lowered himself into a chair, small now. Talia didn't look at him. She picked up her purse, nodded once to me, and walked out. The silence wasn't awkward. It was final. I turned back to the board. Effective immediately, we're rewriting governance policy, ethics, oversight, transparency. No more backroom boardroom deals. No cheers, just nods. Have you ever won so quietly that the silence itself was your statement? Later that night, the city lights blinked up at me from the balcony of my home. May stood beside me, arms folded. In my hand was the shareholder agreement. We didn't speak. Didn't need to. They thought they removed me. They just invited the architect in. My phone buzzed once. A message, headquarters. 6 a.m. ready.